2 days ago, we got an update for quite a few magic and melee items in RuneScape, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts and feedback on said updates. So what all got updated? Well, we have Elite Tech getting an update, we have FSOA getting an update, and EZK got an update. If I go into my bank here, all the Masterwork weapons got an update. Now for the Masterwork weapons, I'll just talk on these real quick as there isn't much here. They all got a passive where any damage you deal, 2% of that damage is then calculated and given to you in the form of HP, and it is the same for all of them. Masterwork Bow I could see being a de facto range weapon purchase earlier on in someone trying to build up their range gear, and then just tossing things like ECB, Dark Bow, SGB directly into EOF rather than using a physical SGB, and that would probably be pretty nice for anyone trying to learn PVM because you do have that little bit of healing on top of, say, Soul Split flicking or anything else. Also, when learning ECB, I could see that being slightly helpful. Masterwork Sword, I could see being useful on maybe some type of AFK Slayer task or any type of AoE Slayer task. It is only a one-tile weapon, so maybe not something that requires a bunch of AoE. I don't really remember if anything like that exists. Or if you're doing some lower tier bosses or you're learning something, you could use this. The one that I see getting the most use, potentially, although this is still on a very small scale, is the Masterwork Staff, as you could maybe use this in a couple high enraged scenarios like maybe Glaycore or something, to where once you have used your FSOA spec, you use a Masterwork Staff to get some additional healing. Not too many encounters come to mind when thinking of this other than Glaycore, maybe Zamorak, but probably not. And again, it seems like it's more of a trying to help people get into PVM. So they are what they are. I think Masterwork weapons and Masterwork gear in general is just in an odd spot. It seems to be this weird type of bridge between tank gear and power armor, and if the data is out there to show that it's helpful, I really am not bothered that it's in game. As long as nothing Masterwork ever really becomes best in slot, I think it'll be just fine, and that seems to be the case. Now on to the magic gear. Elite Tech got a passive where per piece worn, it grants a 2% critical strike chance. So essentially any combination of these will give you a crit chance buff, and the full set adds up to 6%, which is the same value as the Sliske armor. So we're essentially getting the best of both worlds now, where before this update we would use Elite Tech outside of Sunshine when we're not under FSOA spec, as the damage, or the magic damage bonus I should say, was actually pretty useful in buffing up damage. The damage was most noticeable on things like the T95 wand spec, and you could actually see, I believe it was like a 1k difference on each hit, or maybe it was like 3 to 5k damage per wand spec you would notice, so it was there. However, we don't have to worry about Sliske anymore. We are back to using Elite Tech. It is best in slot, at least until a Masket comes out. Overall, I'm fine with this change. I didn't mind using Sliske. It was kind of fun to do a glass cannon build with magic, but I'm not really sad to see it go in terms of best in slot. You can still use Sliske earlier on if you can't afford Elite Tech. I believe standard Sliske is only like 100 mil or so, so maybe in someone trying to build up towards best in slot you could use it, but Elite Tech also I don't think is entirely too expensive. And I know a lot of people that are getting into PVM, ED2 is kind of that first branch out boss after you do some Vindicta, maybe some Hellwar or something like that, maybe a little bit of Araxor and Nex. I know ED2 is early on in a lot of people's progression, so honestly you could probably just make your own armor set by doing ED2, or at least get a bulk of the cost out of the way with it. Now the nice thing about Elite Tech is it does have a lot better defenses than Sliske, so it allows me to more comfortably use something like the normal prayer book and take advantage of Eclipsed Soul giving us 4% extra crit chance. And I've tested this in a few places so far. I still have a few others I want to test it in, but it is a lot of fun of just running the prayer book here and getting as many crits as possible. I'm sure I have footage up here already showcasing some magic being used somewhere. So far I've tested Sanctum of Rebirth and Raksha with Magic Camp, both worked as expected. For some reason at Sanctum I kept dying on Nakatra. I wasn't really sure what was going on there, but in theory if you're running magic there you should be doing just fine. It'll work out perfectly fine. Raksha, I actually managed to get quite a few pool pool skips, it's not 100% reliable to get the pool skip without any healing yet. I haven't quite worked out the rotation, but messing around, I did manage to get a 127, which for magic camp is absolutely my PB. I've never been that fast magic camping before. So hopefully in the coming weeks, I can figure out a 100% consistent skip rotation, and then I'll have a guide out for that. I still have to test out things like trilogy runs, solo Solak with magic, and there's a couple other places I want to go to. Now, FSOA also did get some attention. It now has a passive to increase your critical strike damage, and I think it's fine. I don't think FSOA really needed the passive, but I'll take the free crit strike damage. It in combo with elite tech feels pretty strong, so it is what it is. And for rotations, all I've really been doing, I can swap to my magic gear real quick, is instead of continuousing into G-Conk and hitting auto attack in my dual wield input, I just do a auto attack into a G-Conk, hit another ability, and then do a dual wield ability. And for dual wields, I've been prioritizing Corrupt Blast and Combust because those are buffed by 30% damage and have the chance to insta-proc with the dual wield effect. So before we could play with 4-tick rotations around G-Conk timing, but now that we have the crit strike damage increase, we definitely want to be taking advantage of that. So it really enforces the idea of auto G-Conk with staff, do an ability with the staff, and then a dual wield ability, then auto G-Conk, rinse and repeat. And as far as the magic camp guides that I have out so far, you should be able to use those rotations just fine. And if you want to, go ahead and use elite tech instead of Sliske. And if anything, it'll just be a slight damage increase on those rotations. And I'm sure y'all will be smart enough to figure out some improv and adapt the rotations to take advantage of the FSOA even more. But speaking of guides being outdated and having to redo them, we now have to talk about the not so nice side of this update. And that is what I'm going to call pretty much the entire disaster zone of EZK. So EZK has been completely reworked. There is a special attack that has been changed, and there is a passive effect that has been added to the EZK. The passive effect bolsters the Pulverize, Smash, and Quake abilities, and you get a 5% damage increase on your target that has been marked by Flamebound Rival, which is the spec effect. And you take 5% reduced damage from your rival, marked again by Flamebound Rival. And the special attack for EZK is called Igneous Showdown, or as some people jokingly call it, Igneous Shutdown, because it is essentially shut down melee camp for the time being. There is an update coming next week. They are aware that EZK is not performing well, and I will get into that decision in just a moment. But what the special attack does is essentially a weaker version of Dragon Longsword for 65% adrenaline, and subsequent uses of the spec will deal an additional decent chunk of damage, so it's then stronger than a Dragon Longsword, but it is only a single hit. Now, something to keep in mind is that when you have a Flamebound Rival, the 5% damage increase to the target and the 5% damage reduction only works when you are holding the EZK. And that will lead us into what they are changing this upcoming Monday, where they're taking both of these figures, both 5% figures, and increasing them to 12%. And the special attack is getting buffed to where I believe if you use it again, it'll cost less adrenaline and do 4 hits and give you about an 800% average damage in a single spec, which is pretty nuts. However, my issue with the EZK and the entire design of it is centered around forcing you into a weapon camp situation, which means you lose the damage increase when you are not using this weapon. So anything like Karis is not going to be able to benefit from it. Leng swords are not going to be able to benefit from it. The tier 95 two-handed halberd coming out with a masket will not be able to benefit from it. And this is where I think it has been really messed up, because essentially, if we logically think through this, if we increase EZK to where it is useful, that means it either has to perfectly match Leng swords or outperform them. And in that case, then everyone just starts maining EZK, and swapping to Lengs is only going to be useful for destroy if you want it, a flurry swap, and decimate, which is what everyone gave criticism towards with EZK in the first place, which was it was a cleave and hurricane swap that had a special attack that went in an EOF. And so it seems to me that the issue has not really been fixed. They've just shifted the issue to where now it is with Leng swords rather than the EZK. Because if EZK is stronger than the Leng swords, and Leng swords are not really useful other than the spec, then the theory crafted solution would then be to take a tier 85 Leng instead of the T95 and go ahead and put it into an EOF. The Lengs have become the EOF fodder, because I can come to these combat dummies, build up some Leng stacks, and then I have them for 2 minutes, and then I can just dump a Leng spec whenever I need to because I have the EOF. Now, Leng EOF is not an entirely new concept. It is useful in places like Sanctum of Rebirth where you're using a Karis and not really building too many stacks on the offhand because it's only a 2% chance, but you want to take advantage of the Karis damage buff, and also some niche situations where you're using a Pterosaur Maul for a setup kill of some kind, or you're using Pterosaur Maul and want to use a Leng spec in a certain part of your rotation. And this gets into what I think is so wrong about the EZK update is they took a simple problem of people not enjoying the fact that EZK was best used in an EOF to take advantage of the spear bleed extension, giving you 50% extra duration on the EZK spec. And there are many solutions to that problem. One of them off the top of my head could be converting Spear into an enchantment using slivers, so that way physical EZK is used for the spec and any swap abilities. EZK could be given the 50% bleed extension passive. Those are two just off the top of my head. I'm sure there are many others out there that could be creative, simple solutions in order to fix the problem of EZK going inside of an EOF. But it seems like Jagex, whenever something like this happens, they want to take the opportunity to turn it into a really strong special attack and passive combo to really give the sword a quote-unquote thematic identity. Now, the passive effect of bolstering abilities I think is an interesting decision, especially things like Pulverize. I think that's kind of cool how we can make it at least more usable. The Smash swap, it's take it or leave it. It's just swapping to a weapon for a free damage increase. I don't hate it. I don't love it. Giving Quake extra affinity, it is nice because it seems like they want to give bosses a bunch of damage reduction that we have to then use all these buffs in order to get through. I really am not the biggest fan of accuracy like that, where it's just flat damage reduction, and getting up to 100% is a real pain in the butt because it's something you have to upkeep. I find that rather annoying personally, but since we are now in this situation where EZK, they want to keep it this spec, this passive, and how it interacts, what I would say is a good solution to, I guess, satisfy both camps on this side of the discussion is to simply open up the damage increase side of EZK to weapon switching. If you have a Flamebound rival selected, you get the guaranteed 12% damage increase on that target no matter what weapons you're equipping. And if you want EZK to have an additional buff for holding it with Flamebound rival, you could make it to where the damage reduction is only usable when you're holding the EZK, and this wouldn't affect anyone wanting to just camp the EZK in the first place because you still get to use the weapon as it's intended. You get all of the potential damage benefits for camping the EZK in its new form. You get your damage increase, you get your damage reduction, you have the special attack and its uses, but it allows the people that want to go above and beyond and find methods to introduce opportunities to employ skill methods in order to do so by switching to different weapons, building up Leng stacks, using things like Karis, other offhand swaps for other specific abilities. And I think it is a simple yet powerful solution in order to do this because it is a rare instance where both sides of the coin can come out on top. The people who just want to pick an EZK EZK and camp it, they get all their benefits. For us out there who like to indulge in a bit of weapon switching, we get our benefits. I think it's overall a win-win. However, if they keep everything locked behind the EZK and try to make it compete with lengs, one of them is going to come out on top, the other is going to be useless, and everyone in the community is going to pick whichever one is better. I've seen it all the time. People will come in and ask, hey, what's the best thing to use? Everyone will reply with EZK if it's the strongest, or Leng Swords if it's the strongest, and that'll be the end of the discussion for most people. I think giving the opportunity to weapon switch for at least the damage increase, I don't care if the damage reduction is locked behind EZK, because then that does give a decision-making process of, okay, if some attacks coming up, should I just go ahead and sacrifice a smidge of damage in order to have a bit more damage reduction? Say you're under Zerk, you're at half HP or something like that. You can start playing with scenarios where swapping and holding the EZK would actually be more beneficial for survival's sake. And that's all I really have to say on all of this.